Ralph Waldo Emerson's Nature is an 1836 poem that deals with religion and origin, similar to the stories we've covered previously in class. He takes a deep dive into the purposes of nature, starting on a more basic level and slowly building up to the higher spiritual level. He talks about ideas of reality existing and kind of ties it into his transcendentalist ideals. The introduction through part 2 give a more basic description of nature, talking about how the goal of science is to discover the theory of nature, or that art is nature in combination with man. True solitude, Emerson says, is being alone in nature, and he likes to tie in a lot of religious aspects throughout this poem, especially towards the end, but towards the beginning he makes statements of like the stars displaying God is ever present, even if you're alone in nature. Part 2 talks about nature's basic uses, which could be heat, food, shelter, water, transportation, anything that can just keep a human alive. Parts 3 through 5 talk about how nature can be used to stimulate a person mentally. Part 3 involves nature's beauty and how it can restore pleasure to someone, but it's only really able to be seen passively. Nature's beauty by Emerson is described as a way to stimulate creativity when it involves like art or writing or any other like form of self-expression. Part 4 talks about language and how all words kind of primarily connect back to nature. There's this universal understanding of some language when you're talking to people. He talks about how man cannot be understood without nature as a reference. Part 5 is talking about how all of nature is supposed to educate man in a way. He doesn't really go into any specifics, but he uses this circle imagery throughout with nature being universal and how everything kind of cycles back to each other. Nature is seen as the base for religion, ethics, and common sense. 6 through 7 go into a more in-depth spiritual description of nature. Emerson likes to ask the questions of, does nature really exist, or is it just a perception in the human mind that's created by God? The real answer to that is no one knows, and he's asking a bunch of these rhetorical questions to try to get you to think. Nature is supposed to be used to distinguish the real from the unreal, talking about how in relation to society, nature can be completely different, and it ties back to the solitude part, where nothing's going on in real world. Nature is supposed to help us represent God in like a physical form. Part 8, as a conclusion, is sort of summing up the way Emerson wants you to think about nature. Wants you to kind of focus more spiritually on nature to kind of help you attain unity, and he kind of says that nature can help you see the world with new eyes by pondering abstract questions of, is reality real, or how is nature separated from the real world? He says that a guess can be more efficient in understanding what nature is than science. That guessing helps tie back the story into pondering abstract questions about nature and reality. Ralph Waldo Emerson's Nature is similar to the material we've read before because it involves, say, the origin of the world around us, or pondering the question of why things happen. And I feel like even though it was written in the 1830s, it still shows a more modern approach to questioning the world around us and trying to figure out why exactly we're here.